Hi.
Hi.
Long time no see.
Yeah. Everything's great.
Everything is great. Everything is
Trust.
awesome.
Oh my
Okay.
God. Okay.
This episode.
Welcome. I just wanted, before we get, I'll just welcome everybody into our little,
I like it.
our little cocoon here. Welcome everybody
Hello.
to this week's episode of Squintcast. My name is Kelly.
And I'm Brittany.
And this week we're going to talk about season 3, episode 7, called
The Boy in the Time Capsule.
Yes.
Do you want to talk right off the bat about who was directed by? Because it's pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even look that up. I was so focused on the composer.
Which I didn't get a chance to rewatch after we talked. So
Okay.
I did not get to listen for the music, but I need to go back after we talk about it.
Yes.
I want to listen to the music because you were saying it
Listen,
was
just listen to the
fantastic.
music in the next episode because it's the same guy.
Oh, yeah? Okay, done.
Yeah.
So this episode,
Yeah.
do you know Rob Lowe, the actor Rob Lowe?
Okay. Brittany.
Are you aware of the semi-famous actor Rob Lowe?
Semi-famous?
I'm joking.
Semi-famous.
He is hearing impaired in one ear. Did you know that? I recently found that out.
No.
Okay, now you know. Well, did you know that he has a brother? His brother's name is Chad.
Yes, I know Chad Lowe.
And Chad Lowe directed this episode.
No way!
That was the most convoluted way I could go about doing it, but he only directed one episode of Bones, and this was the episode.
Wow. That's weird.
Yeah. It's random.
Why?
It's a little bit random. I wonder if he's friends with the cast or friends with some of these people. This episode was written by a woman named Janet Lynn. This was the only episode that she wrote in season 3.
Okay.
She goes on to be an executive story editor for the rest of the show. She between writing and executive story editing, she does 48 episodes of the show. And she starts to write again later on in the series. So the writing I thought was very, very well done. The directing was very good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a doozy. It's a good episode, but I just found it to be a little bit sad. But
I'm going to figure out
a good episode.
how I feel about this episode later. I don't know how I feel right now, but after we talk about it, I'll have a better idea. I'm just looking at Chad Lowe's directorial, like his filmography.
Okay.
He has dabbled for a little while.
Yeah.
He did 15 episodes of Pretty Little Liars. That was one of Allie's favorite shows in high school.
I was also obsessed.
And of course I know who Rob Lowe is because I knew Rob Lowe before you knew who Rob Lowe was.
How do you know that
He has been a movie star for so long,
yes,
Brittany.
I know.
Have you seen St. Elmo's Fire?
Okay, no.
Have you seen Youngblood?
Yes.
You saw Youngblood?
Youngblood I have seen.
What is it about?
I don't recall, but I know for sure I saw it because I recently...
Who's in it?
Well, I guess Rob Lowe.
Who else?
I don't know.
Who plays his romantic interest?
Okay, I literally have no idea, but I'm certain
You don't know what it's about?
It. No.
How are you
I don't
certain?
know anything about it. I'm looking.
It's a hockey movie.
Yes. No, I definitely.
It's a hockey movie.
Anyway,
regardless,
you and I both we have tested my memory for shows and movies, and we know that
we're going to move forward and talk about this episode because we're going to talk about the 80s. We're going to talk about high school. We're going to talk about all kinds of shit. So let's get going, girl. How do we start this episode?
Let me start us off.
Please.
We are gathering with the class of 1987 of Foothill High School. and they are opening a time capsule that was buried 20 years ago. This is very exciting. There are all sorts of people chatting about what's going to be in there. And they open it up, and we do not see what's inside right away. We skip to another scene with Booth and Brennan.
Well, we do see that there's just what do you mean?
Don't we?
No, they try to open the thing. It's all rusty.
I need to scroll down. Never mind.
The thing is filled with disgusting water. And
I'm on the wrong page of my notes.
Okay. I just want to say, before you go on.
Yes, let me try again, but tell me more.
The first two main people we see are two Veronica Mars alumni, people who were both in Veronica Mars. I felt like the beginning of this was like a Veronica Mars episode. And then I thought everybody was way too excited at this event.
People were so excited. There were actually a lot of people that showed up. Like my 10-year reunion or my 15-year reunion just happened, and not that many people were there. I was not there.
Like
but I saw
6 people for dinner. Exactly.
Yeah, there's like no one there. But they're all gathered around in a field, about to open this thing up. They're all getting super excited about it. And now I'm looking at my proper notes, which is great. And they go to open it up, and it reeks. Everyone is like gagging. They're wanting to turn away from this. And they go to look inside, and they pull out a skull in a bunch of gobbledygook, and it's very disgusting. Yes. Do you have anything to add, Kelly, now that I am talking about the right part of the episode?
I just want to say, the guy who's there, who's like announcing this big event, he's the principal of the high school, I guess. And I watched this a couple times, and the second time I watched it, the principal, he calls this computer tech guy that's there, he calls him Bill.
Yeah.
Instead of Gil. He says, my name is Gil. And I just want to put a pin in that. And I want you to remind me, or I'll try to remember that.
Okay.
Anyway, regardless, again, people are way too excited. It's so funny.
Way too excited. This actor was in a show that Mark and I recently watched. Oh God, I'm going to forget what it's called, so it's not going to be that useful. But with
Brittany!
Law and Order SVU, Stabler, the
no,
the actor who plays you don't know from Law and Order SVU?
I don't watch that show.
What? Okay, anyway, he's like the main character, Christopher Maloney.
I'm going to look here. Oh, Chris, I know him. Yeah.
It's a show called Happy, and it's very unusual. Did you watch it?
I've heard about it. About it.
Very good. It's like kind of dark humor, but
Chris Maloney is like the hottest 65-year-old man you've ever seen in your life.
He's 65?
Or he's like, or 60 maybe. Hold on. Let me see. I think he just turned 60.
62. Jeez. He looks great.
Yeah, he's 62.
Good for him.
Oh my God. No. Okay. Brittany, he looks great. Are you kidding me? Have you not seen him?
He looks very good. Were you the one who suggested that I should watch Only Murder in the Buildings? Or Only Murders in the Building, sorry?
Possibly.
Have you watched it?
I do like it. I haven't watched the latest season.
The first season, she has like the main character has a cutout in her like bedroom at home at her parents' house of Christopher Maloney. And she makes a comment about that. She's like, yeah, he kept it tight. Oh my God, what?
He did
what
an
is
ad
that on?
I think he did an ad for Peloton.
Oh my God.
Or these socks. And he wakes up in bed and he's naked and he's walking around and they're blurring out his dick and they're showing his socks. It's really funny. He's very funny. He's really funny in a movie and a show called Wet Hot American Summer. I think Mark would love Wet Hot American Summer.
We've seen the show.
You gotta see the movie.
We saw the show. We should watch the movie.
The show came out after the movie.
Yeah.
It's so
We'll
good.
have to watch. Mark loved it, though. You're right. Spot on. Okay. Ruth and Brennan, they come to the scene. Tell me more, Kelly.
Okay, so Booth and Brennan arrive at this scene where they've discovered a skull in a time capsule. And Booth is like really excited about being at a high school, talking about the field and stuff. And I was like, I just said it was so weird that he was doing that and to let it go.
So
I was just like, let it go, let it go. Let it go. Anyway, the funniest part is this: there's a security dude giving them a rundown on what happened.
Yeah.
And he says he was expecting to see the 10,000 Maniacs album, which made me laugh so hard. I went, ha 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 ha. Do you know the 10,000 Maniacs?
No,
okay.
And I didn't look it up
happening?
because I wanted to be able to tell you that I didn't know.
Hold on. You go. What happened? So anyway, Brennan identifies the skull as belonging to a male in their late teens. Gil, this computer tech guy who was there earlier, who apparently went to this high school and was there for the time capsule opening, he gets involved and tells them exactly how the time capsule was sealed. And it just occurred to me now, like, this time capsule is massive. Have you ever seen something like that?
Oh, it's huge.
Like, our time capsules were like a box.
I'm not even sure that I had one. I can't remember. They're
like little boxes. They're not huge metal, like welded together, huge, like round containers.
Well, now we know why we don't waste our time on that, because it was compromised anyway.
Yes. So there's all this water. So Booth wants to pack everything up. Brennan decides to drill a hole in the side to drain all the liquid out. And then anyway, everybody's really fascinated by how Brennan solves this problem of transporting the capsule intact by removing the liquid by drilling a hole in it. And I was just like, seems like a very logical way to go about it. I don't understand it.
Seems like it makes sense.
Anyway.
The Booth Brennan dynamic in this episode, it really shows in this, like, it carries on through the whole episode, and we get started here. She agrees with us that Booth is acting ridiculous by being like, MVP of my senior year, I got a touchdown. Yeah, I'm amazing. By telling her that, telling him that, there are tribes and other things where they also tell stories of power and agility that has faded away. And he is so offended and is like, okay, sorry, no, we need to focus on the case. Just concentrate on the case. But he was not concentrating to begin with. Kelly's room is so clean. She's showing it off to me right now. It's really nice.
I'm performatively showing off, like, Price is Right style, the horrible cluttered hell that is the third floor office.
I love it.
Anyway, where are we?
Looks great.
Back at the lab.
We gotta go back to the lab. Yes. Do you want to tell me more about it?
Yeah, there's a VCR tape playing in the background while everybody's talking about this crap. Why is this tape playing in the background? And everyone's pulling stuff out of. Oh, the videotape is showing people putting crap into the capsule, and
they're taking stuff out and trying to figure out what went in.
Where did the videotape come from of them putting the stuff into the capsule?
Maybe like, where it came from Gil?
But where is it from? Like, it's so strange. Anyway, there's a bunch of teens on the tape talking about what they're putting inside. And one guy stands out in the video. He talks about how music will be on a microchip one day. He's like kind of a nerdy computer dude, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Anyway, when he says it, everybody laughs at him. Ha ha ha. And I was like, man, you know what? I didn't believe it either. I didn't believe that it would happen. I did not believe it. Like, when I was with my ex-boyfriend in Halifax, he used to get so angry with his client because John, my ex, was a graphic designer, and his client always used to say this stupid shit where he go, can't you just type into the computer uh Mount Rushmore, and pictures of Mount Rushmore will show up. And my boyfriend and I used to laugh and laugh and laugh about how stupid that was and how it will never happen. What does he think this is? And sure enough, here we are, Mount Rushmore, and pictures of Mount Rushmore show up. So,
oh my God. Well, like, it's hard to imagine things like that before they actually happen.
Well, it makes me think like maybe I should start believing crap like that and think, yeah, maybe one day that could happen. You know what I mean?
Maybe one day they can teleport.
In my lifetime, I've gone from doing, command prompts on my hard drive to what we have now. So
yeah,
who knows?
That's true. Lots changes in such a short period of time. This is the most disgusting, one of the most disgusting activities that they've ever done. They're trying to find, they're kind of cross-referencing what went into the capsule versus what they're pulling out, and trying to see if there's something
we talk
different.
about the bones, right? Because Zach and Brennan are talking about the bones they found. They make note that there are several instances of the bones being broken.
Yeah.
Or something, and then healed many times over. So, and then Hodgins arrives and gives Zach a hard time. Cam shows up, and then Angela. It's all an interesting, like the director chose Chad Lowe, the director.
Great
I like
job,
this
Chad.
way of sort of slowly everybody kind of enters into the scene. And then they all start reminiscing about the 80s. And I was thinking that Brennan was 11 years old in 1987. And I want to know how old Angela is.
Probably even younger.
And
she was getting flashbacks to braces and stirrup pants and a side ponytail.
Right, which is fine. I'll just let you know, I never wore stirrup pants.
Okay.
And I never had a side ponytail. Okay?
I definitely had a side pony, and I went to high school in
but you're not an 80s girl.
2000s.
Exactly. You're not an 80s girl. Okay?
No.
Regardless. I think stirrup pants were awful. They look terrible on me. I'm just going to say this much, is that Angela walks into what would normally be like a horror scene.
Yeah.
There's guts and bones and blood everywhere. And she's talking about this side ponytail. Like she's acting like she can't even see what's in front of her. That she would normally be going, ew, gross. But
other episodes she's had to be like, sorry, I must leave.
Okay, you ready?
Yes. Is that the song that plays?
No. That's just a cover of Because the Night by 10,000 Maniacs. I was going to play a song. I apologize. That was a cover. I could probably cut that out.
Very good. No, I like it.
What's the one? More than this. Trouble Me. Oh, Trouble Me. Maybe. Trouble.
This is not what I expected.
10,000 Maniacs were huge. And the woman who was the lead singer is Natalie Merchant. She put out an awesome, like this solo record right after they split up, that I, to this day, sing all those songs still. Like I can sing all the words. I know the album that Natalie Merchant put out. I love Natalie Merchant. I love singing along with her voice because like I can just, it's very nice. I love Natalie Merchant.
It's soothing.
Anyway,
I did not expect that to be the music that came from that name.
I know, right?
I thought it was going to be like a hardcore rock band.
No. We're poppy, not rocky.
Yeah, a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Well, Kelly.
We're treated to a sketch. Angela shows us a sketch. It's not really flattering, and I can't wait to play with it. Regardless, Zach recognizes the sketch. He goes, wow, that looks like somebody from the videotape. So they rewind it and watch it, and ta-da-da-da. Ba-ba-ba-ba. So
it's our victim.
It's our victim.
Roger
I forget
Dillon.
his name. Roger Dillon, that's it. And then Brennan asks like the big whodunit question, the whole purpose of our show. She says, how did Roger Dillon get from here into there? Like, I was like, oh, good one, Brennan. And then we have our intro.
Bum bum ba 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 dum bum.
All right. You know what? This episode, man.
What do you think? What do you think of this episode?
I don't know about this episode. I still don't know how to feel about it. Oh my God. But just before you start, so we're
yes,
we come back from our intro, and the scene opens with Hodgins walking around with a bottle of stuff, which he calls goop or whatever, and we find out that it's Roger Dillon's liquid remains. And he's like shaking it a little bit. And it reminds me of the last episode where he said, I never liked Kyle Aldridge, when he was shaking around that test tube with stuff.
Yeah.
He seems to have these last couple episodes, these scenes where he's opening with these, walking around with sludge and just being kind of cheeky.
Yeah, Cam doesn't like that.
Do you even want to talk about this episode?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Why?
I had this moment where I was like, let's just like hurry up, and I don't care about this episode.
This can be, let's see if we can set a record for our shortest episode.
Okay, let's go, Cam.
There's only 27 scenes.
Okay,
so Cam is not liking this. She's saying you got to call him Roger, buddy. You can't just like call this person sludge. So they're going to do he's going to do a chemical analysis because he came across some unidentified organophosphate. Anyway, nerve gas. Appears to be nerve gas in his blood. He also has a wrist fracture, which would be like if your arm were taken behind your back and they took your lunch money, is what Hodgins was saying. Anyway, so he had some trouble at home, possibly. He could have had, they are speculating he would have had to be at home because the fractures and the healing predate even him being in high school.
Question.
So, yes.
Cam is wearing a lab coat with custom stitching on it. Ask your sister if there's such a thing as customized lab coats.
There is. I asked her, and she said
you did?
Oh. Yes. So she also, those girls have not been fired yet. What?
No I don't understand
how.
That's crazy. If you haven't heard, we're talking about an ongoing investigation at Brittany's sister's scientific lab place.
It's crazy. Anyway, we will continue to keep you updated. Okay. It is an ongoing situation where they have fancy lab coats.
Right. So the next scene we have, yes. And the next scene we have Booth and Brennan who go to visit Roger's father. at his father's house. The house is a little run down, which makes me think I should rent my house out for horror movies, honestly. I think it would be great. I could make a lot of money as in an independent movie where there's somebody who's like a little dodgy, maybe there's a murderer, you could come rent my place. It'd be perfect. Anyway, we also find out
They might
that
have to
the
do a little
father
work to it to make it dodgy.
more holes in the wall? I don't think so. We also find out that Roger was an abusive alcoholic and didn't seem to care at all about where his son went, which is insane to me.
Which was so sad.
It's crazy. And I don't want to bring it down, but it just reminds me of how my father completely wrote off my sister, right? And when she died, he didn't seem to care at all. So it was just like really wild.
That's so sad.
So this is when Booth and Brennan tell the father that Roger is dead, and they say it very matter-of-factly, and the father is quite upset. The father tells them to talk to his old best friend from high school, Gil Bates.
Yes.
Who's the guy from earlier, the computer tech guy who was at the time capsule opening because they were best friends. So as Booth and Brennan walk away, the father tells them that he's sober now. And they don't really react at all to him telling them that. He just kind of just says it. And then that's it.
I think, they really judged him for the fact that he beat his kid.
I'm sorry, but I judge him for not knowing where the fuck he was for 20 years.
Literally, not even one phone call, one letter, didn't attempt to reach out to him. I don't like that. We end up back at the lab, which is back at the lab where we are going through the time capsule, which I jumped ahead a little bit before. So they're going through the time capsule. They have a little list and they're saying, okay, this is what went into the time capsule. Yep, check. That was on there. Yep, check. That was on there. And they go item by item. Then Angela and Hodgins have a weird conversation about being a nerd fantasy and being into Barbie and blah, blah, blah. They're just being creeps. It's fine. We don't need to talk too much about that. And
there's St. Elmo's Fire. The videotape for St. Elmo's Fire is in it too.
Yes. They also find a yearbook as well, which is interesting. We will talk about that later. And so they pull out a couple things.
Of course there's a yearbook.
Yes, but we're going to talk more about it later because it's important.
Anyway, there's two anomalies, right?
Yes, there's two anomalies. There's a pocket watch that's in there, which is not on the list. And there's also a computer disk. So they want
not just any kind of disk, Brittany. It's a floppy disk.
It is a floppy disk.
Have you ever seen a real floppy disk?
Yes, Kelly. I use many a floppy disk. I'm not that young.
I just want to say they asked Angela if she could retrieve data off this floppy disk, which is the anomalous thing they find that's not on the list that was packed in the time capsule. Yeah. And I have to say, like, if she's able to do that, she's a genius. She's a genius.
I thought she was an artist. I didn't realize she was an IT person.
Well, she invented the Angelator.
That's true. She is an IT person and artist. So there's a little bit of residue that's on the watch. The watch is like very fancy according to Hodgins, and he's a billionaire. So I guess we'll take his word for it. They're thinking maybe the residue could tie into what the poison is that they found. So Hodgins is going to go take a look. So Angela's got the computer disk. Hodgins has the pocket watch. Let's see what they find out.
I'm just going to point out the music here in the scene is very creepy. And then we see Booth and Brennan are driving. They're having a discussion. They're coming back from the father's house. She doesn't think the father did it. I agree with her.
Yeah.
Booth starts prying to get Brennan to share some sort of fun teenager story. Then she tells him about a guy she used to like who apparently embarrassed her with a Secret Santa gift of Brainy Smurf when she wanted the Smurfette, that's it.
Yeah.
And this is like apparently very traumatic for her.
I couldn't take it serious. I couldn't take it seriously.
Listen, I just wrote, Brennan, honey, you've actually experienced trauma. This stuffed toy shouldn't really have made that much of an impact.
No, it should not be a core bad memory.
But here we go with our B plot. where Brennan accuses Booth of being one of quote unquote those guys, and he claims to know what she's not. He claims he doesn't know what she's talking about when she says he's one of those guys. So
he knows what one of those guys is. Give me a break.
Of course
he
does.
was one of those guys. So he would know what one of those guys is. Okay, well, we're back with Gil Bates, who is not one of those guys, at the FBI headquarters.
Yeah.
He is absolutely distraught that this is his best friend that was found in the time capsule. He had assumed there was a note apparently that was left at the mother's place by his friend Roger at the time when he disappeared, saying that he couldn't be around his dad anymore. The kids at school were really mean and he just couldn't take it anymore, and he was going to go off and find his own life and don't look for him, basically. So he just assumed that maybe one day he would hear from him and kind of moved on. But you get the impression that this is a friend that kind of left a lasting impression on him. So you feel pretty bad for this guy that he's finding out that this kid is never going to contact him again because he met his untimely demise basically at around the time of the note. This character usually plays like creepy bad guys, like creepy villains.
Does he?
So this is a totally different character for him, in my opinion.
I don't think he always plays a bad guy.
Not always, but most recently in that Happy show that I was talking about.
Oh, he's in that too?
Oh yeah, he plays like such a creepy bad guy.
I'm not to say that he's not good at playing creepy guys.
Yeah.
But he plays mostly just nerds and stuff.
Yeah.
He's a really good actor. He's a
phenomenal actor. I really like his character.
Patrick Fischler. And he's been around forever. Like, he was in Mad Men, for God's sake. Like, he's really, really good. Regardless. I'm just going to show you a picture of Allie when she did gymnastics. Just because I'm in Greg's office, I'm surrounded by all this stuff.
I love it.
Show me everything. Gymnastics.
Oh my gosh. Where did she do gymnastics?
Just up the street for a while. Premier Gymnastics Club, it's called.
Okay. Because I did gymnastics at Birchmount Gymnastic Club, and we had very similar leotards.
Oh God, they're all the same. It's
Although
crazy.
She and I'm sorry, I just tried to loop her into my age group, and we are nowhere near the same. So
you're not that, you're closer than me and Allie.
I guess so, but
so where are we? We're back at the lab.
We're back at the lab, and
Hodgins!
wild. Tell me more, Kelly.
Hodgins! He tells us that the floppy disk and the pocket watch were definitely in Roger's jeans, and that there was cocaine in the watch. Hodgins gets all excited because he thinks it's like Miami Vice. Do you know what Miami Vice is?
Yes,
Brittany?
I know what Miami Vice
I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm just going to keep asking if you know 80s things. It's so funny.
I mean, like 90%, maybe not, but this one I do know. So
I'm just going to say this next tangent we go on, it was so unnecessary regardless. Cam looks up on the computer for anyone from the school who may have had an arrest record, and lo and behold, a black man pops up on the screen, and he was apparently arrested for dealing drugs. I don't like where this is going at all, and I don't like where it went. I don't like any of it. Like, it's just like awful.
It's awful.
Next we have Booth interviewing this guy in his office. They're sitting directly in front of each other, not like there's no desk between them. They're like sitting next to each other in his office. It's an interesting interview.
It is his office, though. You pointed out a few episodes ago that where they interview them makes a huge difference for their level of perceived guilt.
I believe so. I think so. I've noticed always like the way they interview people. Remember back in the man that lived underground and
yes,
there was
and they interrogated him in the interrogation room.
But there was that bright light that was shining on him, and then he had the orange jumpsuit, and he was just like so tragic. I hated every minute of it.
Yeah.
So next, Booth has this African American man in his office interviewing him about this scenario, He was apparently a science teacher at the high school where Roger went. This guy is so mad about this situation, and I would be too. So it turns out that he was arrested for having a couple of joints in his pocket and a few ounces at his house. Booth drums up some kind of scenario where, like, oh, maybe Roger was dealing for you and he wanted to get paid and you didn't pay him. It's like, it turns out this guy, the science teacher dude, says, no, it was this guy, John Adamson, this cokehead hockey player that cheated on an exam. And because I caught him, he called the cops on me and I got arrested so he could retake the test and ta-da-da. Like, it's so crazy. And I know we've talked about this before. Like, when was marijuana legalized in Washington?
It was much later. I think 2007 or 2009 we found out.
It was a while ago.
I'm going to look it up again.
Yes, you look it up. Anyway, the fact that Booth was threatening this guy with jail for, saying that he murdered Roger, and the guy saying, why would I even tell you anything if I did it? Like, why would I tell you the truth? Like, this is crazy. I'm married. I have a business. I have kids. Like, I'm not doing this. This is crazy. Like, he was just so over it. And I was too. I was so upset about it. And you know what? This never comes back. This never comes back. This character never comes back. Nobody talks about it. It's just like this red herring that I just felt was so, I hated the whole tangent.
I think
anyway, I went on too long about that. Sorry.
No, you didn't at all. But I think in 2015 it became like legal. So much later.
Good to know. All right.
We finally, yes. Sweets is back. It's very exciting.
Sweets is back in town.
And he's back Stay. I hope so.
Back.
Okay.
Back.
Sweets
I'll sing that in the
there
background.
with Booth and Brennan. I love it. Sweets is there with Booth and Brennan for their regular session. And Booth wants no part in this psychological examination of the two of them. He just wants Sweets to help with psychological profiling. And Kelly is singing and dancing in the back, and it's just wonderful.
Sweets is back. Sweets is back.
Okay. Booth is like, Sweets, these are all the details of this case. Tell me who did it. I need your psychological profiling. Like, we don't need to talk anymore.
Booth is
and Brennan is sitting there. Oh my God. Booth is just annoying in this episode. And Brennan is having none of it. She's like, Sweets, he made fun of my story about the Smurfette because I was a Smurfette and this jock gave me Geek Smurf. And that was not very nice. And Booth is like, okay, I'll tell you a story about my hard time as a kid. But basically Sweet says, oh, okay, yeah, you were that guy, weren't you, Booth?
Yeah.
And Booth is just being kind of tag teamed, attacked by Sweets and Brennan. He deserves it. But he's supposed to share an emotionally humiliating episode from his youth with Brennan to make them even. And in exchange, Sweets will come up with a profile of the killer.
And Booth says, okay, Sweets, you will reveal the profile and I will reveal myself to Bones. And then he immediately regrets what he said. So
it was, that sounded weird, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
But this this is and it's true. Booth is acting like that guy who's sort of like gaslighting Brennan, dismissing her feelings, and then he's bullying Sweets into doing what he wants. Like, he's just being like so entitled and privileged, and he's just like walking around being a dick. And it's like, I think it's really funny because Booth isn't really like that, but for the purposes of this episode, obviously they're trying to like do this B plot or whatever. So anyway.
Oh yeah, they're like super playing it up, which is fine. Honestly, it's not actually annoying. Brennan is annoyed by it, but it's actually a little bit funny. So let it happen.
Exactly.
So
I'll just say, back at the lab, we find out that our victim Roger didn't do cocaine, and the teacher's off the hook. So I was like, phew, another black man saved from prison. I was so happy.
God.
Thank God. He didn't go to jail. Anyway, go on.
This
What
poor guy had
happens?
made a whole life for himself, and he's being brought in, interrogated by the FBI.
Awful. Terrifying.
So he didn't do cocaine. And it turns out that toxin that they found in the blood was barely enough to even make a mouse cough. So he definitely wasn't poisoned to death. But Zach comes and is like, Dr. Saroyan, come with me. I found an anomaly. So he's found a mark on the victim's skull, which would indicate that the victim was cut. There was a weapon that was thrusted in the neck and cut both the carotid artery and the jugular vein at the same time. So he would have bled out instantaneously, basically. They're going to try to figure out what the murder weapon was. It doesn't seem very obvious. Definitely wasn't a knife. So they're going to try to figure that out, but doesn't seem like it's going to be a very easy process. Angela and Hodgins have the weirdest relationship ever. They're back in her office now. And Hodgins... Angela is showing what she found on this disc.
She's on this computer. It looks like a Commodore 64. Do you know what a Commodore 64 is?
It is a Commodore Amiga, apparently. I do not. My first computer was a desktop that ran like Windows 95 or something. I can't remember. But so she puts the floppy disk into the drive, and Hodgins is, oh, wow. No, I do know what that is. I think we might have had one of these.
All the schools had them in the...
Maybe that's what I'm remembering it from.
Schools had them.
In the 90s? Like early 90s?
Yeah, like late 80s, early 90s for sure.
Yeah, I think that's where I remember it from.
But after
I have definitely seen that.
Like had moved forward, so we didn't really have them everywhere. Like it was I didn't have a Commodore 64. I had an Apple II at home.
We had by the time I got to grade 5, they replaced the computers with Apple at my elementary school.
I was one of the only people
grade 5
ever, like I was one of the first people to have like a computer in my house, actually. Like I had an Apple II. And that was in the early 80s, mid 80s.
That was pretty advanced to have a computer at home, wasn't it?
I loved that computer. I loved it. I used to play Space Invaders and Pong and Lemonade. And then I would write all my stories and I'd print them on the dot matrix printer. So it was like the printer that had the 3 holes, punch out holes, and it was like all.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I just remember playing when I was in elementary school. I remember they had Oregon Trail on the computers and I was like obsessed.
Yeah. You're just like my old stepkids.
Yeah.
They're about your age. Okay.
Yes.
So they definitely had Oregon Trail.
Oh, addicted. Snake. Yeah. My dad had this game on his like the laptop he had from work that was like you had to beat all these levels. Anyway, it was kind of like Snake.
That's my Apple II.
Oh my God. I'm having flashbacks right now.
I had an Apple II.
That is awesome.
We're reminiscing too much. See, we don't want to talk about this.
We can't make this our most efficient episode ever.
Okay, so she's on the Commodore. Okay. She's on the Commodore.
Yes. And he's being creepy because he's like, "Oh, you're my geek princess."
Because he's a creep.
Suck out your soul. I'm like, whoa.
Because he's a creep.
Anyway, it's weird. This first-person shooter game, he's a creep. So a first-person shooter game appears on the screen, and Hodgins is losing his mind because Angela makes the point that she's kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever, it's a primitive Doom, who cares? And Hodgins makes the point that this guy was well beyond his years. He was very advanced, and if this Doom had come out in 1993, and we're talking about a disc that was made in 1987, so 6 years before. So if this had come out, if they had released this at that time, the victim, Roger, would have been a billionaire, he's saying. So that's definitely a good motive for murder, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about Booth and Brennan getting
Okay, so the next
coffee?
scene, Booth and Brennan are apparently in the FBI kitchen pouring themselves a cup of coffee before they have to go in and talk to someone in Booth's office. And he's trying to tell her a story about his childhood. And she's arguing that it's not humiliating enough. Basically, it had something to do with winning a football game or losing a football game. And then he tries to one up it by telling a story about how he was screwing around with a girl under the bleachers, and she found out that he was doing it with somebody else earlier, so she stole all his clothes and then everything and ran away, and he had to run around naked, and he was laughing about it, and she's like,
and
oh,
it was
my
very
God,
cold.
All of your stories are about, sexual prowess and conquests, and you're always winning, you're always having a good time, everything's funny. She's like, nothing's humiliating for you ever. And he's like, yeah, but it was cold outside, so he's trying to talk about his dick. And she's saying, you just want to show, all you want to do is show off your dick, like, basically. And then they're walking into his office, and Gil is sitting there because they're going to talk to Gil again. And they're talking to him about this video game we just discovered that Angela just discovered.
And Gil agreed that he knew that Roger was well beyond his time, that he had this game idea that was incredible. They had this whole plan, and they were working behind the scenes. He was paving driveways, and Roger's doing some work at a roller rink, and they were raising money so they could buy the computers and all the equipment that they needed so that they could make this game a reality and put it out, basically become famous from it. But he disappeared, so that was a bit of a problem. One of the other ways that Roger had made some money is by tutoring a cheerleader named Janelle in math.
Yes.
And then that cokehead hockey player, he wrote his SATs for him. So he was able to make some cash off of that. John Adamson is the guy that he wrote the SATs for. And Gil had a very poor opinion of him. He called him a nasty piece of work. So clearly, we have to talk to John Adamson.
Clearly.
So
Booth and Brennan are driving. They start cooking up a theory that John Adamson actually killed Roger with his hockey skate, because it's possible that this mark that Zach found and the way he bled out, blah, 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 could have been done by a hockey skate. So we meet John Adamson in a restaurant that looks like Wong Fu's a little bit, but it's like an old steakhouse vibe with red velvet booths, and there's lots of people. We meet John Adamson. And anyway, I miss Wong Fu's so much. I wish we could still go there.
I wish we could eat there.
This guy is just a smarmy, like he does political campaigns, like a campaign manager for politicians. So he's a little bit smarmy and very, again, entitled, privileged, blah, blah, blah. Pretends or claims not to remember Roger or Gil until Booth gives him the what for. And then Adamson, he coughs up that Roger asked for more money.
Yeah.
To not rat him out that he wrote his SATs. And so he gave him like some cash in his wallet and his pocket watch to make him go away.
That watch with the hidden compartment for cocaine, but Adamson
obviously
has no idea what
the same pocket watch they found. Yes.
Yeah. So what's the other than just seeing his character, who is obviously a slimeball, I thought it was hilarious. And we didn't talk about it when they were pulling it out of the time capsule, but this guy had signed his hockey skate and put it in the time capsule like it would be worth a lot of money when they opened it. Doesn't look like he went very far with hockey.
Can I ask you, before we move forward, and we will move forward, I promise, we're going to skate through this because neither of us are, I'm not into this episode as much as I definitely was the last one, but regardless, were you this delusional in high school?
Definitely not.
That you would sign something going, I'm going to be famous one day.
Definitely not. Were you?
I was already like basically a drunk. I didn't live at home. I was living with my boyfriend. I moved in with him when I was 16, and Allie was giving me such a hard time about that because he was like 24 and I was 16. She's like,
Oh
oh
my
my God,
God.
Allie, that is so bad. And I was like, I know, but whatever, it happened. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. My life was
I'm with
very
Allie.
different. My life was very different. I was like, you know, budgeting.
No.
It's like trying to like scrape up enough money to buy cigarettes, you know?
I was not scraping up enough money to buy cigarettes, but I definitely was not signing my volleyball uniform and throwing it in a capsule, thinking that I was the next best thing.
It's great. Oh my God. Regardless.
In my last 2 years of high school, my mom went away to medical school. So it was just my dad, me, and my sister.
Your mom went to medical school?
She did when I was in grade 11. So,
and is she a doctor?
She graduated school, but didn't finish her father passed away when she was doing a residency. So she took time off and then she didn't end up going back. But she did all 4 years. I think it was just the practical experience she didn't finish. But
does she want to do it still?
I think she thinks about it sometimes, but I don't know. I think about that sometimes my dad didn't really cook. So my sister and I and him every night, we would go to Swiss Chalet for dinner.
It's great.
And because we went to Swiss Chalet so often, they offered me a job. So,
oh my God, I forgot you worked there.
Yeah. So in the summers, I worked as a hostess until I was old enough to waitress.
Oh my God.
So, but I didn't sign my my apron.
Your Swiss Chalet apron?
Capsule.
Wow.
I'm going to own this company one day.
So what do you mean she went away?
She moved to Cayman Islands for like 2 years. Well, for 4 years.
4 years? So did you ever see her?
We went for we would go see her. We would go visit her at like Christmas break and stuff.
What about your dad?
Yeah, he would go visit every so often. Like a little bit more often, I think. So random.
Okay. This is another conversation we have to have off the pod.
We will discuss further.
That is wild.
That was my final years of high school experience.
Wow.
Honestly, I was so busy doing I kept so I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was like 25. And I had no idea. But in hindsight, when I was diagnosed, it was very obvious. But I was so busy that I didn't have time to I had to be focused when I needed to be focused to be able to get I had so little time to do my studying because I was playing sports. I was a choir. I was in all these things.
Yeah, but also parents don't matter. Like when you're a teenager,
no,
you barely know they exist unless they stop feeding you or giving you money.
That's true. So so at that point, you're just so busy, right? You don't really realize.
Like when Greg got upset, he gets upset sometimes when the kids don't spend time. But when they were teenagers, I said, Greg, do you even know your parents existed when you were that age, first of all?
Yeah.
And now they're so busy. Allie's finishing. She's in school. She has an exam tomorrow. She's been studying all the time. And then Luke, he's got a full-time job. He just graduated from university. It's a huge transition. She just moved back from the UK. She's doing a huge transition. So it's a lot for them to ease into this new lifestyle. So
within a few years, then they'll
I
find
I'm hoping we see them more. I hope we see them more.
You will,
I love
for sure.
them. I love them.
Yeah.
I really love them.
They're great.
I have the comparison disease. I think they don't like me as much as obviously their mother is their mother and she's better than me and they like her better and they want to be around her more.
She is not better than you.
But I was just,
she just plays a slightly different role. Yes.
And I just I have that comparison thing where I think but I don't want to have to do any more than I already do, to prove
and you
that
shouldn't
I
have
love
to.
them.
No.
And I want to be around them, we should just be able to hang out and not do anything,
100%. And they're great kids. I can say that because they're younger than me. Kids. But
anyway, regardless, the tangent. Now we have a really good scene.
Tangent.
We have a good scene.
Yes. Oh yes. We're back with
yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
We finish with the Adams and stuff? Anyway, they talk to him at the steakhouse. It's a very similar situation to our African American friend. We never see this person again, and they're quickly ruled out.
Quickly ruled out because he's not as big as he thought he was going to be back in high school. So, okay. Very interesting. They're going through the case. They're in Brennan's office. Who's they? Sweets is sitting on the couch and reading Booth's report. Sweets is back. I'm so happy. And Brennan's there waiting for him to read this report, which he's getting very frustrated by because he's going very slowly through this report. But he's commenting that this report, he's finding it very interesting because it's actually saying more about Booth than it is about this Adamson guy. So he already knows that Sweets already knows that this Adamson guy is not homicidal because he has certain characteristics that would make him an unlikely candidate.
Yeah.
So he's very immature, he's cheap, he's greedy. And at the point that he gave that watch and the money to Roger Dillon, he probably would have, at 17 years of age, taken his watch back after he murdered him if he was going to murder him. So seems very realistic. Hodgins comes by. He wants to give some more evidence. What evidence is that? Excellent question. Turns out that pesticide, that poison that they thought was poison is actually a pesticide. It is kind of important. What? Did I skip a point? Did I skip something?
We skipped a hilarious scene where Hodgins walks in to tell Brennan about this pesticide you want to talk about. And Sweets is still there. And Sweets is like, wow, you guys are like, go, go, go all the time. And Hodgins is like, yeah, we're trying to catch murderers. And Sweets goes, yeah, and that's really dope. And then Hodgins goes, okay. Like he does not like Sweets at all. And then Sweets is like, no. I'm going to go work on this profile right away. And I love being in the field. And then Hodgins goes, you're in a secure lab facility. And he goes, yeah, but like I spend all day with neurotics, like 8 hours a day. So this is like being in the field for me.
And Brennan is like,
and Brennan's like, no offense. I was literally just in his office. Like, and he goes, no offense, Dr. Brennan. Anyway, Sweets is so psyched to be helping with the case. And I know that this is a role that he takes on. I know that, but I'm just excited about it. I think it's going to be fun to have this new energy sort of injected into the scenes, you know?
It's sort of like this third party that they're able to bounce ideas off of with a different perspective, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Hodgins.
Yeah. Tell me about this pesticide.
After him, Hodgins and Sweets are done their awkward conversation. Turns out that poison that they thought was poison was actually a pesticide. And it just so happened that they actually had sprayed that specific pesticide at a very specific time right before the murder happened. This is all very helpful because they know exactly where it was sprayed. And there was a development under construction at the time that was mostly swamp. Now there's houses there. And on the border of that lived the cheerleader. Sorry, I'm going to cough for a second.
Yeah, so it was a cheerleader, Janelle, who he used to tutor to make extra cash so he and Gil could buy computers.
Ba, 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 ba. So that is all very helpful. And I think maybe we have to go and talk to Janelle.
Perhaps.
Also, Hodgins suggests, because they're all saying, oh yeah, that he was gonna go to her place because he's tutoring her. He's like, or she could be he could have been a peeper. And Brennan's like, Dr. Hodgins, please tell me that boys change after high school.
I just want to know, like, what is this crazy town that this crazy foothills place? Like, why is everyone still living there and married to each other somehow? Like, it's very strange to me.
It's definitely a small American town.
Although I shouldn't say that, because back where I'm from, there's lots of people who still live there. Lots of people married to each other. Like it's very, a small town. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I guess, in these big cities like Toronto, like I don't even know what most of the people are up to from my high school. That's not as exciting. Okay. So Angela's looking through this yearbook. Remember,
Yes.
I said we should remember that they found a yearbook?
Yes. Now we
We're coming
remember
back.
this part. We're coming back to the yearbook. Yes.
So Angela's looking through the yearbook and Hodgins walks in and comments on how these are horrible hairstyles. But what Angela points out is that it's very interesting. This is a gag yearbook. It's not a real yearbook. It's, instead of best smile, most likely to succeed, it says most likely to get head stuck up own ass, and best rack, and most likely to die of a VD. So the people who put this together,
terrible.
it's awful. The people who put it together actually signed off on it, and the duo was called Gruff and Grim. So now we got to figure out who is Gruff and Grim, because perhaps they put this fake yearbook and a body into the time capsule. Lots of short, quick scenes I find in this episode, which is kind of cool.
I was just looking at the Mean Girls. Remember that movie Mean Girls?
Oh yeah,
that would be right up your alley, I'm sure.
I just watched it with my niece not that long ago.
They had the same. How old's your niece?
She is 13. I watched it with almost 13. She's turning 13 on Friday. Okay. 13 and 10.
Because they were trying to figure out over the weekend, at what age do you show a girl Mean Girls?
10, without them
thinking that it's okay to be that way. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
Act that way. Because they have a similar thing in that movie. That's like a mean yearbook.
They have a burn book.
The burn book. That's it.
Yeah.
So next we have Booth and Brennan going to interview the head cheerleader, Janelle, and Booth is relaying another tale to Brennan about, some humiliation that's not really a humiliation, and Brennan's mad at him again. They're arguing at the door of this house that they're knocking on, and the door opens. They're still arguing with each other, and she's standing there like, hi.
Hi, professionals. Want to come in?
So they talk their way into her house. They want to talk to her. Asked her if her name was Janelle Brown. She's married to the principal who we saw at the beginning of the episode, who was, at the master of ceremonies at the time capsule opening. Can we say master of ceremonies anymore? Is that a word we can say?
I think so. MC.
Okay, just checking. So she tells them that Roger was her tutor and he had a crush on her. Then they're interrupted by her son. Her son's name is, I forget
Alex.
now. Alex, okay. Brennan starts staring at this kid like she's really staring at this kid. And Janelle says, hi to this kid, and then says goodbye to her kid. So Janelle walks her kid Alex to the door. Brennan snoops around this living room they're in, and she actually steals a framed family photo and she stuffs it into her jacket. Like, it's absolutely wild to me.
Are you surprised though? The second I saw this kid, I was like, yeah.
This is a problem, a little bit of an issue with this episode, right? Like, it's like all these little, like, we meet that African-American science teacher, it was useless. We meet John Adamson, it's useless. And now we meet Alex and we're like, oh, what's going on? Anyway, Chad Lowe, he's got a heavy hand, okay? I'm just going to say that as a director, regardless. Janelle comes back from saying goodbye to her son, tells him that Roger came by the night that he was killed, but she never saw him again. Then she gets up, Brennan gets up and wants to leave right away. And Booth isn't done asking questions, but he follows her. He's like, okay, I guess we're leaving. Anyway, I just thought it was funny. That whole thing where she's like, okay, thanks for your time. And she starts walking away, and Booth's like in the middle of trying to ask this woman a question. Yeah. He goes, oh, okay, I guess we're going. Like, I thought that was funny.
It was funny. I agree. They got back on the same page, even though they were fighting right at the beginning about his latest sexual conquest that he was trying to turn into an embarrassing story.
Exactly.
So they keep getting worse and worse. So it becomes very obvious, and it was obvious even during the scene that we just talked about, why she stole the photo. And so she goes and talks to Angela, and she gets her to pull up a photo of who Alex's father is supposed to be, the principal. And she says, okay, yeah, he has these features that are identical to his dad. And Angela says, what are you talking about? He has none of the same. Oh.
Angela, it dawns on Angela. It's like, oh, Brennan's saying that Roger Dillon, the victim, is actually Alex's father because he has all these same genetic markers and just in his physical appearance. So they think that it's possible that Mr. Stinson, the principal, killed Roger back in the day.
Because he found out that Roger was having sex with his girlfriend.
Banging his girl.
Not good. No. It is. This character has very distinct facial features. It's not like they were really trying to make it obvious that this is definitely his son.
Yeah.
It was very clear.
We'll talk about how obvious they made it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Okay, so let's carry on to the most awkward but kind of heartwarming scene ever. So we're back at the FBI, and Booth and Brennan have brought Janelle and her husband, Terry Stinson, into the FBI headquarters, and they're having a little conversation. They're asking for DNA. They want to do a DNA test because they can't rule anything out. And Brennan kind of just comes out and says, is it possible that Alex isn't your biological son, Mr. Stinson? He's like, what do you mean? And it's very clear that he has no idea that Alex is not actually his biological son. And it's very heartwarming, actually. Toward the end of this scene, he says, it doesn't matter that he's not my biological son. He's my son. We're a family, and that nothing will change. Which is great,
so but there's no way. It's great, but there's no way no man in the middle of a heated argument with their wife has said he's,
Oh, yeah.
Are you sure he's mine? You know what I mean?
Yes. So now all those arguments have a different meaning. Although, did Janelle during those arguments, did she go,
Yeah, really. I can't believe after all this time, 20 years, it still hasn't come up. But regardless, we hear Janelle say the words that she felt that her husband at the time when they were teenagers in high school, she felt like her husband was, quote unquote, that guy.
Yes.
And then after all this stuff happens between her and Roger and her, like her husband or boyfriend at the time, she realized that, she tells him that she's pregnant. She realizes that he's not that guy. Like he's actually a good guy.
Yeah.
So she married him because she knew that he was a good guy.
Yeah. It actually was kind of sweet, but I
just can't believe that he had no idea. I can't believe.
Yeah. But this poses a problem because he had no idea that he wasn't the father. So how could he have killed Roger?
Right?
So now we're back to the drawing board, and Booth and Brennan are talking with Sweets. And Sweets has a theory Sweets has a theory.
I'm going to sing it. Sweets is back. Tell us what happens with Sweets.
So Sweets is talking about who the murderer could be. And he's saying that based on his analysis of everything, this would be someone who would have wanted the time capsule to be open and would have been waiting for the time capsule to be open so that he could be punished for his crimes. That it's someone who didn't really make it very far in their career. They kind of got stuck. As he's talking, it becomes very obvious to me who the killer is, but I will not spoil it. Brennan, during this whole thing, Sweets insults Booth, saying, aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you listening to me, kind of thing. And Brennan is like, excuse me, Agent Booth is an excellent listener. So I just thought it was interesting that after she's been shitting on him this entire episode, she's like, no, Sweets, don't make fun of my man. So anyway, he really wants to be able to tell his girlfriend that he caught a murderer. So he's really hoping that his profile is right. Yes. Sorry, Kelly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Two things here. Yes. So he talks about, the psychological profile of this killer. And then Brennan, it was like dismissing the whole psychological profiling, and then Sweets, stands up to her and says, actually, it's, I'm an expert in my field, and this is a highly educated logical conclude, like he's like basically explained to her in science words why what he's saying makes sense.
Yeah.
And then Booth basically compares Sweets to a teenager because he's so young and maybe his brain isn't fully formed yet. And then Sweets is excited about the prospect of finding the murderer because he's going to get a blowjob from his girlfriend if he does.
Exactly.
Question: do we ever meet Sweets' girlfriend?
Yes, we do.
Okay, that's all I need to know. No further information required. Soon. Oh,
yes.
Fun.
We will meet her soon.
I just want to say that. Okay, sorry. The next scene, we're back at the lab.
Back at the lab. So it becomes very obvious. Hodgins saves the day and is talking about the type of substance that he found on the where Roger would have been murdered, basically, where he would have been hit. And Cam makes a point. Oh, actually, now that you're saying that, Gil Bates worked paving driveways, and that could have been an asphalt shovel.
Yeah, so they find a petroleum byproduct that basically would have broken down, but would have originally been asphalt. We remember that Gil said that he worked paving driveways with asphalt. So they put 2 and 2 together. They figure that Gil killed Roger by, severing his neck with his asphalt shovel, which is the blunt-ish object. So this is, as we said earlier, so obvious who it was.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that Stinson, the principal guy who's married to the cheerleader now, called Gil Bill is so funny to me because they went to school together. I just think it's like this to me is at the beginning of the episode when he calls him Bill, it made me laugh so hard the first time. And then realizing throughout the episode, like that they actually knew each other and they went to school together and stuff. I just think it was so funny. It was so funny to me. Regardless, where are we now?
At least it rhymed.
Now we're in the interrogation room.
Oh, and this scene honestly broke my heart because Gil obviously he's been beating himself up for the last 20 years about killing his friend. So they got in a fight because he was saying that his dream had changed, and by he, I mean Roger. Roger had come to him that night and had said, "You know what? I love Janelle. I need money. I'm in love with her. I can't follow through with our idea." And this really, really upset Gil, because Gil had put everything into this project. And so they got in a fight and Roger hit him. And then he grabbed his asphalt shovel and he smacked him, or like jabbed him with it, not meaning to kill him. And the way that he jabbed him, he died instantaneously, basically. He was not aware. He had been told by Roger that he was in love with Janelle, not that Janelle was pregnant. So now he realizes that he had fathered this son. There were all these things that he didn't know at the time that really add to the regret, you can tell.
It sounds like a terrible death. It sounds like he almost decapitated him with this shovel.
Yes.
Like it's awful.
Yeah. And it turns out
I can't believe that Gil wouldn't be covered in blood.
He would have been, I think.
While he's stuffing
it sounds like he held him
into this capsule.
Yeah, because I think he said that he held him and he told him how sorry he was, and he knew that he didn't mean it, but
it's awful.
He would have been covered in blood for sure.
It's terrible.
But this is gruff and grim. So Roger was grim and he was gruff, and Booth is just poking at this guy the whole time and calling him gruff the whole time. And he's asking him to stop, and he's asking him to stop, but he doesn't stop. And anyway, so unfortunately, Gil is going to go to jail for a very long time. But he still ends this scene by saying that he hopes he gets the chance to tell him, the son, Alex, about his father.
Yeah.
Which I don't think Alex is going to want to hear that from him.
Don't think that's going to happen, Gil. You're delusional.
So we get to our last scene.
Yes. So next we have Booth and Brennan at the Royal Diner. Booth is trying to tell another story about his childhood. Booth basically was accused of being a Philistine or a Philistine, however you say it. And Booth's response to that when he was a teenager was like, I'm not a Philistine, I'm Catholic. Anyway, I thought that was really funny. And everybody thought it was really funny how stupid Booth was when he was a teenager. Regardless, Booth's friends basically bullied a kid and Booth is humiliated that he didn't stop them. That's where he's at with it. Brennan wasn't totally satisfied with this humiliating story. And then Booth had a little toy in his hand and it was Brainy Smurf. And Brennan was mad because she wanted the Smurfette. And he's like, yeah, but you're better than Smurfette. You are Brainy Smurf. You're better than Smurfette. You're smart. He says all these really complimentary things.
Yeah.
To Brennan about how awesome she is. Anyway, this doesn't matter. This dialogue doesn't fucking matter because the whole time they're sitting there staring at each other into each other's eyes, really close to each other while he's talking about how awesome she is. And it's getting out of control. This whole
they look like they're about to
talking.
Yes.
It's the close talking eyes, like looking at each other deeply across the table. There's no food. They're not eating. They're not having coffee. They're just sitting there. He's giving her a toy. And I was just like, what is going on here? Like, seriously, guys, like, would you just like make a decision already?
Kiss, kiss, kiss.
No, that kind of moment would be where they would hold hands, where he would like touch her hand or something like that's like more
and then kiss.
Intimate. And then fuck. Could you imagine?
That's the next step.
If you just went around, have sex.
Get a room.
Just get a room. Anyway. So that's the end of our episode. It was a bit scattered. I apologize to everyone listening, but boy, oh boy, what'd you think of it? Let's make it snappy.
Honestly, I feel like it feels like it was scattered because that's how the episode was. There were so many like twists and turns of being like, hey, yeah, maybe it's this guy. Wait, no. Maybe it's this guy. No. Maybe it's this guy. No. So
I knew right away who it was.
Oh yeah, immediately as soon as he opened the capsule.
No, like when he was there and he was called Gil, and I was just like, okay. And then his father said, oh, it was Gil's his best friend. I was like, oh, Gil did it for sure.
Honestly, when he opened it up, just because I have seen him in recent shows where he's been the bad guy, I was like, this guy did it. It's him. For sure it's him. It was good.
Aww.
Honestly, I don't mind this episode. I thought it was pretty good. It is a bit of a doozy in terms of like it jumps around a bit. The characters are good. The story is pretty good. I just found it to be kind of depressing. Like it's a little sad.
It was depressing. It's very sad. The whole situation's terrible. Not enough Cam. I don't know. And Booth being a total dick the whole time. I do like
Zach either.
There's a little bit of like, yes, we know Zach was bullied, but then I like Sweets getting involved. I like that sort of aspect of it too.
Yeah. So you like the episode, or how did you feel about it generally?
I'm still on the fence. I don't know how I feel about it. There's something about it that's off to me in terms of its relationship to the other episodes. And what is this, episode 7? Okay.
I wonder if they filmed them in a different order.
This is the thing. I'm wondering because it feels a little bit disjointed after last episode. I just feel like it's a bit disjointed because last episode was like a creepy kind of Hitchcockian vibe. And this one was just it was just kind of like I said, a lot of red herrings that were ridiculous and unnecessary. But the most important question I have for you right now is, who is your king of the lab and who is your lab rat? Okay, we
Sweets.
agree. We agree.
Yes. You agree?
Sweets is
King
the
of the
queen,
lab?
is the king of lab. 100%.
King of the lab. Sweets.
100%.
Oh, lab rat. I always forget about this, so I never think about it. Okay.
I just think Sweets.
Who's your lab
I
rat?
have
I'll
a
go
feeling.
next.
I have a feeling that Brittany's going to say Sweets is her king of the lab every episode now.
Every episode he's in. I
Every
love his
episode.
character. I just love his character. I think he's funny. He's helpful. We'll
Look at
see.
my junk.
I love
my
it.
junk.
I
Check
love
out my
it.
junk. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Look
trying
at
to
my
think.
junk.
Trying to think who my lab rat is.
My lab
I'm
rat.
trying
If
to
you're
think
if
this
you're ready,
through. I'm
if you're
ready.
ready for it. Okay.
I am ready.
Roger Dillon's father.
Oh, yeah.
Lab rat.
Okay. I do agree with you. My lab rat is definitely the politician. What was his name again?
John Adamson.
Yes, John Adamson. That guy.
It could be Booth, we could put throw Booth under the bus for this one.
Nah, he's okay.
He always redeems himself, eh?
Yeah, right at the end. I was like, okay, he's not bad.
And even though Roger's father is like sober and everything, it's unforgivable to me. Unforgivable.
Well, he beat his kid, which is just awful, and he doesn't even
and the
care
fact that
he went away.
Not even that, but like his mother didn't, like his ex-wife didn't like contact him, hysterical, looking for her son. Like, come on, man.
True. Yeah, even though there was that note. I wonder, did Gil write that note, or do you think that Roger actually did write that note? Because he was planning to run away with Janelle.
That's a really good question. I assumed Gil wrote it, but you might be right. Because would he have had time to write that note?
But then Janelle turned him down.
Yeah.
Which is awkward.
But how did Janelle turn him down and then he told Gil he was going to run away with her anyway?
I think so. Yeah.
The timing's weird. Because he went to see her the night. He went to see her the night he died. She turned him down. And he went back and told his friend he was going to run away with her anyway, even though she turned him down.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
That timing is weird. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Unless she was lying.
Maybe a gentle listener will send us a correction note to tell us how we went wrong in this one. But regardless, those are our rats and our kings.
And that is our episode.
And that's all I have to say about this one. I want to wrap it up and just say thank you to everyone for listening. Please check us out on Instagram and Facebook. And obviously you can listen to us on YouTube. I'll eventually get around to posting some fun content on YouTube, perhaps for some videos together. But you know what? Time is a flat circle. And you know what? I'm running out of it. And that zoom on your camera is wild.
It's creeping me out. It's like,
why
hey,
is it
Brittany,
going over there?
Do you remember that you have this laundry to fold behind you?
It's so funny. The camera just panned over to your elbow. Are you moving your elbow a lot or something?
No, I'm not moving at all. I have not moved at all.
I know, you're trying to be really still. It's so funny. What is happening in that room? You must have a ghost.
We have to have a ghost. Casper? Casper, is that you?
Casper. No, his name is Joe, and he died like 10 years ago.
No, this is just Casper, the friendly ghost. He is friendly.
No, it's Joe. He died at a party. It was like a bunch of teenagers while their parents were away, and he OD'd on something or had alcohol poisoning and barfed in his mouth and choked on it.
Great.
Is that horrifying enough for you?
Can't wait to go to sleep.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the next episode. I'm looking forward to this composer. His music is really noticeable, even though it says on Wikipedia that he was with the show all along, from season 1, but he stops in up to season 4. I think he stops being their composer, but I've only really just noticed the music this season, like the interesting creepy music he does.
I have to pay more attention to it because you brought it up last time. I'm going to listen to it for the next episode. Yeah.
I noticed in this one too. It was wild. Anyway.
I'm going to listen for next episode for sure.
On that note, thanks again for listening to this episode of Squintcast.
Did it work better? I went
It's
earlier
perfect.
than I thought.
You're
Okay.
just on the nose.
Perfect.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Squintcast with me, Kelly Booth, and your new friend, Brittany Elsner. The Bones theme is performed by The Crystal Method. They can be found on Instagram and YouTube at The Crystal Method and at thecrystalmethod.com. Intro and outro music is by Twisterium at Pixabay. Cover art was done by Irena Dolenc-Stajan. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Squintcast. Email us at squintcastpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me at fab_empire_ on Instagram and TikTok. Brittany is at Brittany81523 on Instagram. See you next time.